All right, welcome to today's podcast. I'm super excited to be here today with a special guest cast. Today we've got Jason Garrard, who is the IT manager at Jannah. So Jason's been spearheading the integration and data transformation projects with Jannah. We've also got James Choi, who's an old friend of mine, but he is a partner at Napkin Consulting, which is our strategic alliance partner around data warehousing, data transformation projects. We've also got his business partner, Stefan, who is, are you a Kiwi?
Yeah, I'm a Kiwi.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, we outnumber the Aussies today.
Oh, no.
So Stefan works very closely with James in terms of just that data transformation. And so whenever there's any data warehousing project, I come to these guys and they know all of the data warehouses across from like Azure, AWS, Snowflake, BigQuery. Yeah, pretty much all of those big dogs. So yeah, today we're here to have a very special conversation because we've just gone through a big data transformation project with Jannah, which is quite innovative. And we want to just talk about that, but also talk about what's the future of data warehousing? Like, where are we going? How should organizations think about Salesforce Data Cloud or Data 360 as it's just been renamed? Yay. So how do we think about that product alongside a data warehouse product? And how do we use them both together in harmony as opposed to thinking it's one or the other? Today, I'm just going to start the question with you, Jason. How did Jannah's growth plan mandate this data infrastructure change?
Thanks for having me first, Robin. It's all started middle of last year when we were tasked by the business to build a loyalty program. So we spent the first 6 months building it with our pods provider, Redcat, launching it in February, which is a transactional driver across the business, bringing customers in. More frequency equals more dollars in our eyes. And that's, there was a lot of data coming from that. And we needed a way to actually report on it, market to our customers. And we needed a way to communicate with these customers where they are in their journey as part of our loyalty program. So having the data in one place was definitely a vital piece for that, especially with Salesforce.
I remember when we went to the Salesforce Tower and we had a big strategy session with Salesforce, which was great. And I remember there was two camps. There was marketing and IT, and we both split up into different teams and were like, what do we need to do? And the marketing guys were kind of like, we need more data. And the IT guys were, we need to give data and make it accessible to marketing so they stop complaining.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did this project tie into that? Like, where is the future of this project going so that is true?
So we are trying to get to a point where we can have a single place where all of our data is stored. So across the business, we've used 10, 20 different tools with different aspects from finance through to HR, loyalty data, sales data. And it's all in different platforms, which there's a lot of different credentials, a lot of different logins, and none of it's integrated. We needed a way to bring it all together and make it easy for our marketing team to be able to communicate with, whether it's the customers and then the different departments as well, to be able to pull the data together and actually be able to analyze and give the proper facts to the business.
And because you did have Salesforce connected to Redcat originally and it was working okay. What was the specific issue that you needed to address with this that wasn't being done already?
Yeah, as part of Redcat's, they've got their inbuilt app and inbuilt loyalty. So we're not using a separate third-party engine, which was a new innovative feature from Redcat. But they're still building out a lot of the analytical tools. So not all the data was available as part of the APIs that they had publicly given us, but the data was in the database that we could access. We wanted the data ourselves to then be able to report on it, not have to view and transform it within their environment. We need the data in a certain way for us to meet our needs, and bringing the Redcat data and POS sales and loyalty data into a data warehouse gives us that ability to view, transform, access it in the way we need to.
So it was, and I see this in a lot of clients where they have some software and the software provider provides them with a data warehouse access so they can do their views and reporting, but you don't have that sovereignty of your data. It's not your data, it's their data, and the things you're able to do on their data warehouse platform are quite limited. I think moving into Azure, because that's where you decided to shift to Azure. Why Azure out of all of the data warehouses?
Yeah. So we're a full Microsoft stack, Microsoft business, fully cloud SaaS solutions. So nothing on-prem so we're already utilizing Azure from that point. So it made sense to not have another system, whether it be AWS or BigQuery, and partner with our Microsoft partner, the Missing Link, to build out an Azure instance, which is where then obviously we engage James, yourself, Robin, to help us bring the data from the Redcat database into Azure. And that way we have that full ownership of that data. So having it there, I guess, as a phase one to a data warehouse, and then next to bringing all about those different platforms I mentioned earlier.
Great. So you're a Microsoft house, and that most of your IT systems are around the Microsoft ecosystem, but you've also got a massive investment with Salesforce as well. Maybe, James, if I can point to you and you can just talk to how we decided what to do in Azure versus what to do in Data Cloud.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I was just thinking about it while you're talking about this whole thing and why you need a separate place to store the data and prepare the data for example, Salesforce. And I think one of the key thing is that a lot of the source systems that you use the data for your operations, there's a lot of data quality issues. So by bringing this into an environment where you can actually manage the data yourself, right? So like you talked about, you're owning the data, but at the same time, there are a lot of kind of cleansing and stuff that you can do so that when you're actually reporting the data, you're talking the truth. So you're providing the truth to the end users, and that's what they want to see. If they start seeing garbage, they will trust the data less, I think. So,
and that's what we saw, or starting to see with the old integration we had, where the API was giving some different results at different times. So being able to see the raw data in that database and transforming the way we need to live enabled us greatly to do things on the fly.
Yeah. And I remember because we did look into pulling the data directly into Data Cloud from the Redcat data warehouse. And I remember looking at that data structure and being like, okay, it's got a bunch of different tables here. We need to pull it into Data Cloud and then do some transformation on it. Maybe, Stefan, if I can ask you, it's like, how do you see transformation work being done in a data warehouse versus in, say, Salesforce Data Cloud?
I think Salesforce Data Cloud is an accelerator for getting things into Salesforce. And I think it helps for ongoing feeds and it helps for your initial migrations, just getting up to speed. But if you take all your core systems, obviously you've got your customer data and that legacy and your POS system and other legacy systems. But if you want to then bring all your financial data or bring all your operations data together, you're not going to load all of that into Salesforce. Salesforce, it's great at what it does, which is a customer-centered single view, enabling your digital integrations as well as your install kind of customer support. But if you want to do financial reporting or you want to do regulatory reporting, to your point before, it's best to bring that all together in your warehouse. So I think in the warehouse, you can still do a lot of analytics to support what you do in Salesforce. So for example, customer tenure, lifetime value, discounting, things like that. You can derive all these kind of insights about your customers in your Azure platform, and then you can feed that back into Salesforce. I think the zero copy clone is coming soon with Azure, so you can make that available as well as being able to report on it. And then I think the last point to what you touched on before around regulatory reporting and cleansing is in another talk, catching up with a colleague recently on our Salesforce migration in a financial services company, using that similar pattern you talked about at the beginning, where you're taking your system and you're integrating it directly with Salesforce. What they found is that because they're just looking at that direct integration, the regulatory reporting became an afterthought. And suddenly you had a whole lot of remediation to be done downstream, which could have been considered up front if you'd looked at it from that kind of cleansing and reporting perspective within the warehouse.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There's a lot of responsibilities that you'd put onto a data warehouse that you wouldn't necessarily put onto Salesforce because it doesn't tick all the boxes in terms of all of the data.
Yeah. I guess the one thing is that I think Salesforce around customer-centric data and obviously marketing, pushing the marketing side of it, I think that's its core strength. But that doesn't mean it needs to do all the heavy lifting around transformation and bringing it all together. Yeah. So I think it's trying to use Data Cloud for that core customer information as like that migration and real-time feed accelerator. But then all your big data marts and insights and financial reporting, reg reporting, all of that, is best placed in your warehouse.
Yeah. James, any?
Yeah, I think I was just thinking about how I learned data warehousing many years ago. How we talked about data warehouse in the old days was single source of truth, right? Like that was the kind of go-to, I guess, tagline for data warehousing. I know the technology has changed a lot and the way you work on using different tools and stuff. But another thing to consider in these big companies and enterprises is that source systems can change. Data warehouse, because you're modeling the data based on your business process or how the business works, it doesn't matter whether or if the source system changes. You could go change Redcat or change any other systems that's out there just because you got different business strategy. What data warehouse allows you is that if you're building all your regulatory reporting or operational reporting out of it, that doesn't have to change itself. So again, another benefit of kind of doing all that transformation in the middle. And there's so many areas that you can touch with the data. HR, we talked about it, inventory, all the operational stuff. It can maximize your profit by using the data that you collected through your operational systems, and then putting smarts around it. And I don't know whether we want to talk about AI as well, but it's coming, and whether you like it or not, and AI will help to analyze that data that you have. And that means that AI doesn't have to go through all your operational systems. It goes one place and again, it's the cleansed data, the data that you can trust and you can put AI over. And one more thing is governance, because you can control the access and who's got access to what and all that stuff.
And even in addition, as we all know, systems change over time. And as part of that, obviously with budgets come into it and needing to pay for then a new integration into whether it be a Salesforce or our Power BI systems for every single integration that we do or change a system that we do is not feasible realistically. And then you need to migrate then all your legacy data into that system. If we keep doing that, having a data warehouse where all these different systems can come in means we've now got clear fields of what we know what data we need. Reporting wise, it makes it easier for us, and it also brings that overall cost of a platform down long term.
So it's like you're building a capability that's like a data as a service for the business to use.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think back to your point, James, I don't know if this is the best metaphor, but the way I was imagining it as you're speaking is like, I've got like a Garmin, right? And that has heart rate tracking and calories and all of those kind of stats. Those stats are standard, regardless of whether I use Garmin or Fitbit or any other smartwatch. So my body, if that had a counter, that's actually counting the true heart rate, the true steps, the true calories. That's kind of like the data warehouse. It's like, regardless of whether I use Fitbit or Garmin, whatever apps, they're tracking the same types of data. It's like orders, order line items, customers, payments, those kind of things. I'm bringing those into a standardized format into a data warehouse that I can then serve up to a Salesforce or to another middleware that will connect it to another system or a BI platform, whatever it is. I'm servicing a standard nomenclature. What's the word? A standard terminology for my data.
Standardizing it.
Yeah, it's just like data dictionary.
It also gives you the opportunity to reconcile these different data sources together. Because if you look at the apps, you've got the Garmin. I'm using a Whoop, but I've got an 8-sleep bed, which records my sleep, and I've got a Whoop. And they both are quite walled garden in terms of how you can pull their data out, but generally they offer their own reporting. The interesting thing is you look at it, and one will say I've slept for 6 hours, one will say I've slept for 7 hours. And you see these kind of problems occurring all the time in terms of bringing finance and marketing together. They look at their customer numbers or they look at their growth, and finance is reporting something different to marketing. And so then if you can bring that all into Azure, you can start to reconcile that and bring it together.
Absolutely. So it's like the Apple Health. That you're pulling all your device data, and that's really better metaphor.
Yes.
Not your body.
Not my body. My body doesn't know anything. But actually that was a core reason I remember is that we would be doing reporting in Salesforce because we had all your transactions in Salesforce, it was like a luxury for me because not many customers do that because it's very data heavy. It's quite expensive to store data in CRM. So when I first came to Jannah, I was like, oh my God, I can do all this amazing reporting. I was doing customer lifetime value, frequency, recency. but the data was never quite the same as what everyone else had. And I'm like, but this is what's in Salesforce. And it's just because it was dependent on API calls and they would get missed occasionally. And so we had this like theoretical, like, we think it's about this, but we don't know until we actually look into the source data, which is finding that truth. It's who owns the truth, who's the master, and what do we consider the master? So I think maybe if we can also talk about Azure, or most data warehouses these days have these AI tools. You mentioned AI before. What should CIOs expect to leverage from their AI tools within a data warehouse?
Maybe I'll go first.
Yeah.
So I think at this stage, two things. So one, with AI tools, you can definitely accelerate the build of data warehousing. So what I mean is you can drop if you've got Copilot with, say, Claude, or even, say, GPT-5 Codex, you can just drop your requirements documents into the development work, get it to read out and pull out all the metadata, put that metadata against the information, and then map, say, a source system directly into your overall kind of warehouse model. So that it's already an accelerator for bringing the data in. But once you tag in all this metadata by simply, as I was saying, dragging and dropping in business documents about what the systems are, you get that insight, then you can layer your RAG over the top. You can start.
Wait, sorry. So you said metadata and RAG. Can you just explain those for the audience?
Yeah. So metadata is really telling the AI or telling anyone in the business what the data means. And whether it's an AI or whether it's a person, you go into a warehousing program, the first thing you're trying to find out a lot of the time is, what does this field actually mean? What does this data item mean? Because until you talk to the business people, you may completely misunderstand what it's about. There's some simple things like a name and address and things like that. But then when you start getting into some of the business specific information, you really need to get that additional context. And so then the metadata is about tagging what that information is, but also tagging it against a conceptual model of how the business operates. In our Jannah's case, you've got stores, you've got customers who visit those different stores, you've got staff at the stores, you've got products that you sell. So these are all the concepts that you want to try and map your information to.
It's the problem that we had with the whole UTC time. If the data dictionary or something, metadata, had more information about those columns to say it is UTC time versus local time, we wouldn't have that issue. But yeah, we had a lot of issues with the time because we couldn't understand the data.
And I think that's actually the good point in Robin. A lot of things we've been working on is obviously trying to get a data dictionary and actually understand properly what each of the data points are, because obviously every business has their own acronyms, every database has its own fields. What exactly does this field do? What does it mean? How does it relate to other tables? As you said, for copilots and AI upcoming, it's going to be heavily important and something we needed to consider as we were with one of the first adopters of the Copilot licensing, getting Copilot into Power BI. And so understanding that metadata is heavily important, and hence why we wanted also to move down the data warehouse route, build out a proper data dictionary of what the data means. So that way our business in the future can just ask it questions, understand what our random business acronyms are, how can it relate different values, and give accurate data.
So metadata is data about data, and it's both human use and also AI use, is just providing context around what it is.
And I guess, just closing off the delivery acceleration, once you start getting this metadata tagging, the ability to build out your warehouse with the help of the Copilot tools, as long as you've got a level of understanding of what you're trying to achieve, massive acceleration. In the projects I've been working on, I've been seeing, say, 5 to 10 times the speed. Just you still have time around requirement clarification, around the overall comms and about what you're trying to achieve, but the actual delivery effort and the testing of that effort is really being reduced, which means you can accelerate the delivery of those kind of data platforms and data marts and reporting. And then the next thing around AI which is still, I would say, in its early days, everyone's beginning to explore it, everyone's getting set up, but I think there's still some work around, I would say, getting the right results, is around RAG, which is about it's about just having search over the top of your data. So the better you've tagged your data, the better your AI can search. But what it does, if you take a normal LLM, is instead of trying to figure out exactly how to find anything across your structured and unstructured data, it first does a vertex search where it tries to find most similar things across, whether it's documents or database tables and things like that. and then it interrogates that information. So you could be saying how many customers visited my store in Newtown last month, and then it's going to figure out which queries to write to pull that information back. So it's like enabling decision making without needing to rely on like pulling data, extracting data out of Power BI into an Excel spreadsheet, and then trying to like do a pivot table.
Yeah. So just one thing to add to that is that, Stefan, you talked about like development lifecycle, speeding that up, and end users querying the data and stuff like that is really helpful, AI. But I think where I found that the whole traditional reporting is still important is that you can, like in the future, you can ask questions to AI and then it will come back to you. But a lot of times, do business even have time to do that? Do they care? Do they just want something to be served in front of them? Maybe AI can help that later to say, you wake up in the morning and say, this is what you should do in the morning or for that day. But where this whole traditional kind of reporting, Power BI, Click, or all those tools can help is that you can actually get these requirements, like Stefan said, get all these requirements and then build a report for you so that it serves to in a structured format so that you can always trust that data. You can always go back to it. One of the things where you might have seen with Copilot is that you ask the same question, it will give you a different answer. Again, if the data is incorrect or inconsistent, like it will give you a different answer. Whereas the reporting, it won't, because it's always fixed and it knows it'll get updated on a daily basis or real time, however you set the refresh rate. But I think, you can't really take that away from right now. You can't just take that away. And that's where I think you still need to get that working.
And the other thing is talking to companies that have put a first round of RAG, so this enterprise AI search in, they're seeing at this stage inconsistent results. So you lose that trust factor, which will eventually get there, but it's going to be tied to really uplifting the metadata tagging, the data quality, because the AI's answer comes down to the data that gets fed in. If you're feeding in kind of quality information, it can't give you a great result. So I think AI at this stage, really the main acceleration is around just being able to build and deliver things quickly. And then I think these other things like operational use, I think they're going to be fast followers.
Absolutely. Jason, talking about speed to delivery, can you talk us through the project? Like, how long did it take? Because I think historically, I've been involved in data warehouse projects that are a nightmare. They're super long, boring. You have to deal with a bunch of nerds as well. Like,
I love them. I love it.
It's not fun. But talk us through the project. Like, how did it go? How did we tackle it?
So it started off, I'm going to say, the conversation around needing some of these extra data probably started, I'd say, around June, if I remember correctly, after doing some obviously consultation work with Xenai and yourself, Robin, came probably to the decision that we needed a data warehousing solution around, I'd say, end of July and start of October. We had a working data warehouse for extracts coming in for automation into Data Cloud. So what's that, about 8 weeks, if I go that? So from start to finish, everything, I think, and no real hiccups really. I think once we gave access to the data to James and his team, Stefan, we just, there were only some questions around what some fields mean. But I think the team got to work. It was pretty seamless from my end. We had a weekly project call, went through how everything's tracking. And it was, at least from my side, it seemed pretty seamless. I guess, James, from your side, maybe not so much working actually with the data.
It was actually good. Like, I've been working with these kind of programs of data warehousing or any kind of data related projects. And like you said, it can get boring and nerdy, but after a while, you know what's important. And so I come from product background as well. And this whole MVP, a lot of people talk about it, but build it wrong, incorrectly as well. But I think we really try to put focus on that. What is MVP for the business, for IT as well, for the team, and your size as well, where you are as a company. It's like a maturity cycle, right? Like you're here, you're just starting out. It doesn't mean that you need a full-blown database straight away. So you take your clients through that journey, and which we'll probably talk about later this afternoon as well, how you want to get to that, but taking the right approach, not to create a lot of tech debt or anything like that, but just making sure that you build the right amount so that you deliver the right outcome, but how do you reuse the stuff that you have built so that it's not just throwaway? Yeah, I think we took that approach, and yeah, I think it's working out well.
Yeah,
Because
I
it
think
was very tactical what we needed to do. Like, it was really marketing. They needed to use it. And they had a couple of use cases they couldn't do today. Like, they couldn't see mobile app transactions separately from online transactions, and they couldn't see the stamp cards, which is part of their loyalty program. So it was kind of like this urgent need, and they were like, we need it tomorrow. And then you guys came in and did that tactical part, but also the strategy. And can you talk about that, James?
Yeah, the kind of the tactical part was based on providing a data model to data cloud in the format that we can potentially use in the future. Obviously, we wrote some SQL script, nerdy stuff into RedCat, but knowing that that will be the beginning of a data model that's going to sit in the middle. I guess it will become a data mart or a master data, but we have structured it in a way that it's all broken down nicely in a data model, meaning when we come to doing the strategy work, you can reuse those models, data model, so that, and then you kind of, data cloud might be sourcing it slightly from a different place, but the core of the data model doesn't change, meaning any of the downstream will not be impacted. And then we're building up the data warehouse in the middle as we go.
And this is where the strategy, I think, came into it, because there was discussion, do we just import the whole RedCat database and every table in there and put it in there, versus actually, what do we need? Let's do what we need only just to meet the marketing goals. And then let's have these strategy sessions at the same time. So they're running at the same time.
Parallel?
Parallel, yeah. They're both running in parallel.
Yeah.
So that way we can, once we've implemented that, we've got the marketing strategy sorted and what they need delivered, we can then actually figure out what we really need, what do all these tables mean, and apply the strategy appropriately, so we don't have that tech debt you were referring to.
Yep.
Because and that's really the thing, is like, a lot of organizations, they have a data warehouse. Like, you guys had an Azure license, but you weren't really using it for this use case. And I've got a marketing requirement and they need data. And it's usually the marketing guys I need the data. The CIO's like, oh, it's a 3-year transformation project. See what you can do in the meantime. But then you get these 2 big programs of work that are massive and expensive. Maybe, Stefan, can you talk through, like, how, if you were a CIO, how would you approach that issue?
So I think it's been an issue that's been around for a long time. On the one hand, we want to build out a full enterprise data warehouse model using the principles that James has said, so that it's agnostic to all the different systems. It's going to cover all these things. Maybe it's initially being funded by finance, or maybe it's being funded by marketing. Those projects run into issues in that it's just too big. You're trying to do too much, and you're not focusing on the business outcomes. You're just adding data into tables. But then at the other end of the spectrum, you get, I need this report for marketing, or I need this for finance. And what happens is you end up getting a siloed pipeline where you get one system, you do one piece of reporting on it. And then you get that reconciliation issue, like what I was talking about between my whoop and my 8 sleep, right? Where they're reporting different numbers. It gets up to your C-level. It's, what's going on. Someone's got an Excel spreadsheet that they're wrangling together to give the reporting, and that's your ongoing process. So I think the way around it is to build out, using that kind of core metadata, a conceptual model of how your business operates. And it doesn't need to be that complicated, right? Like, you've got customers, you've got suppliers, all these things, right? As long as at a conceptual level, you understand how it fits together, then all you need to do is flesh out the bits that you need as you build. So if the first requirements are from marketing, okay, I need customer, I need store, I need orders. So you bring in that information and you structure it. Obviously, in warehousing, you can do it in many different ways. I think, so it's a little bit nerdy. It's called third normal form, which is just basically, what are your core business concepts, like an order, a customer, a staff member, a store, and how do they relate to each other? A customer makes an order, right? And as long
third nimble form?
Third normal form.
Oh, third normal form. Okay. I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, it's the same model that Salesforce uses. And so really, I think modern warehousing is just about having that core model. If you're bringing data together from different systems, and then you build different kind of reporting on top of it. So we refer to it as like an operational data store, and that you can use it for reporting, But if need be, you can also say integrate it with APIs or push that information into operational systems like Salesforce. So it gives you a bit more flexibility. Because I think that's the other thing to mention about warehousing is that kind of the operational world and the warehousing world are coming together. It's all becoming one kind of system now. And so really what you want to do is start with your core kind of model, say from Salesforce, and then you want to flesh it out. And you want to use that for both reporting as well as for integrating to, say, bring more insights into Salesforce. And so really you're just adding some flesh or adding some padding onto the outside of what your core Salesforce is, and you're getting that from the other systems that you have. I don't know, James, if you've got anything you would add to that?
Maybe we talked about it many times, but it's storing the data in the lowest grain. So meaning that you're preparing for the future, and the grain shouldn't really change as a business.
Love it when you say grain.
I throw thermal form. He just talks about something simple. Grain. Make it.
I don't understand data grain. So tell me again, what is the data grain?
And so I guess, okay, let's talk about lowest grain. As in, so you got a transaction, right? Sales order, but it will have each of the items that you have ordered. Right. So your kind of items will be the lower grain than the actual sales order. So the line items, you might even go lower. Right. But that you got that relationship between those things. So it's like a one-to-many relationship. So that's where that whole the normal form design comes in. But so you got this one order against many line items, but then you could have many kind of, what do you call it? The materials that was used to create them. So you can make linkages between all these objects, but you'll never go down a level down below that. But if you started storing all your sales order in just one table instead of breaking it up, you're just going to have all this fanned out data, meaning it's hard to query against the data. It'll be quite hard to understand the table itself, because sometimes you see one line item because someone ordered one item. But some sales order, you got 5 rows, and this becomes less flexible for the future.
I think the other thing is you've got flexibility around how you want to use it. So from a reporting perspective, you might want to aggregate line items against different kind of group codes or something like that. In Salesforce, you might want to just aggregate it up to an order, but you want to have some information about the order that you put into that kind of Salesforce activity or that Salesforce order. So then you've got the flexibility as long as, you're capturing it at that lowest level of grain.
Okay, great.
And this is where, in the way we've built it currently, is that in Salesforce against the member, you can see all transactions, all line items. So we are getting that holistic customer view of what they're ordering, when they're ordering it, how they're ordering it, and where, what location as well. So we know almost everything there is to know. And then as well as all the member data that they obviously opt in to give us, we have a holistic picture of what a customer is doing within our restaurants.
Yeah. And often, like, even if you take finance, what they want is they want that lowest level of transaction. Power BI reports for overall trends is useful for understanding how your business is going. But often what will happen is people will end up pulling the data out of Power BI. And what they're looking for is that lowest grain. What is happening? What are the orders that are happening? Why is there suddenly no orders at this point in time? And they want to just drill down into that lowest level of transaction because they understand the business, and that's what they're interested in, like getting into the detail. So often that could just be being able to roll out from a reporting perspective, one big flat table, which has got every transaction. It's got the customer against it. And they can just look through and understand what's going on.
And different levels of reporting as well. So if you want to report to execs, they don't care about any of the lower detail. They want to see the overall picture.
Revenue by store.
Is it going up? Is it going down? Whatever that is. But
if you're in operations and you want to see how your store's doing, then you're going to drill into it.
Yeah, I see. Oh, you've explained grain to me now. After so many times James has said to me, they're like, client doesn't understand grain. I'm like, neither do I. So, Jason, just going through this project, obviously it's coming to the tail end. I think you guys are doing a final presentation today. What have you learned about this whole thing from the project?
I think the biggest probably takeaway for me is that I think us and almost every business needs to actually understand what they want from data. It's easy just to put data into a table and say, I think as we mentioned, just query it. But I guess junk in, junk out, right? We've had to actually figure out what do we specifically want? What are the actual use cases around the data we want? What structures do we need it? And I guess seeing all this and the way James and the team have put it together, I guess gives me a lot greater appreciation for the work that partners like yourselves do in that, and asking us the right questions and getting it in the right way. So that way we actually do meet the business outcomes, and it's not short-term gain, long-term pain, where I'm trying to do it the right way from the start. And yeah, it's pretty eye-opening. And I guess as part of the strategy session we're having later today, we're putting the business case forward, obviously for the rest of not just this year, next year, but the long-term, what our strategy actually needs to look like. And I think some of the questions I've asked, what's the, I guess, year-on-year cost? What's the maintenance cost? How do we maintain this? So now that we're building this gold standard, we can keep it in that way. So it's more these forward-thinking questions are coming. Thanks, I guess, James and the team, and from using, and as well finding, I guess, the right partner.
Yeah.
And just adding to that is, if we talk about the strategy, it's not just about technology as well. So it's about how your business is growing and how you want to utilize that data. We'll talk about the ways of working, how you want to have these kind of forums or committees that's surrounding the data ecosystem, because people will be fighting for resources later. Finance saying this is our higher priority, and marketing will go, no, it's about that balance of prioritizing the work as well. And at the end of the day, it's funding based, right? Where you have limited amount of money. Where are you going to maximize your return? So I think that's the stuff that we'll talk about today as well, is that, it's the input from the business that's really important, because IT can only follow the directions that business gives.
Definitely.
And James, because you're obviously thinking about the future with Jannah, where do you see Jannah in 5 years from a data warehousing or data perspective?
That's a hard question, because I don't even know what's going to happen next year. But I think step by step, always, I think we will talk about the roadmap and the approach, getting that foundation, which you guys really started in the right way. But obviously 5 years later, it'll be AI. AI will help you guys a lot with the data or day-to-day stuff, as well as building stuff. But I think, again, it's just having the right foundation work, governance around it, meaning that you can utilize it better.
Stefan, what do you think about the future? This 5 years.
The future in 5 years is very hard to predict, in all honesty. Who knows? At this rate of change, it could just be something completely different, right?
Robot chickens.
I'm not going to go as far as to talk about 5 years. I would go as far as to just talk about, say, maybe the next 2 years. What I would say is, just building on the theme I said before you had operational systems and you had reporting and warehousing. And basically, data was always downstream. It was not necessarily an afterthought, but it's more, we've got some reg reporting needs. We've got some needs to report back to the board on how we're tracking. And it just was left trying to make sense of all the data that's coming through. I think where we're moving is that, yes, we want to get all the data from all the different systems you've got and bring it together into that kind of that single view, right? That single model. But we want to be pushing that back into our operational systems, right? So we want to be pushing insights about customers, like whether it's lifetime value, tenure, all those things, right? Back into, say, Salesforce in this case, and then allowing that to support the next generation of, say, next best action and things like that, which is where I'm sure AI will start coming into it. Traditionally, next best action was more your statistical models, but I think personalization or personalized marketing, whether it's inbound in the store or outbound, I think that's going to change with the right level of, I guess, a care around it, but that's going to change with LLMs. That's going to change with AI, just in terms of the amount of personalization that you can do once it's got access to that information, as well as, say, below the line offers, right? As opposed to just a simple, here's 3 offers or here's some adjacent market bundles. You'll be able to start offering below the line discounts or offers based on, say, customer satisfaction or other characteristics that you've got, as well as, I think, providing not just discounting, which is one way of, say, getting sales or retaining customers, but also just providing a more personalized experience. So if you look at some larger companies, say in insurance, the relationship is what's important. If people ring up, they get the right level of service around how, what they need, what's going on. And so I think with LLMs coming in, you're really going to be able to personalize that service, and often giving someone a good experience on the phone or in the store, that's going to lead to more retention than just a pure monetary discount.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the data powers so many use cases. And when I think about it from a marketing perspective, like with normal data sets, you're like, okay, I can do a welcome journey, I can do a re-engagement journey, I can do a birthday journey. But then I've got suddenly additional data, like I've got their transactional data, I've got the product data they've ordered, I've got the last time they made a purchase, all of these kind of things. Then I can start doing 100 other use cases. So it enables marketing or whoever in the business to use that data. I think thinking about data as an asset is really important to think about, because people don't consider it an asset. It's not like the CFO is not, oh, we've got this big asset here that we've got to protect and govern. It's usually the CIO that's, oh, it's my data. But who owns data in an organization?
I would say I would be slightly controversial. And what I'd say is that really a lot of the data is a customer's data, like fundamentally, like in terms of data sovereignty.
Oh, the customer is their data. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Like it's all about, I consent. So if I'm giving you my information, I'm consenting to you having my information. And then when I engage with you and I buy your product, I'm consenting to buy this product. You're capturing information relating to my activity in your store. So if you look at the data, really it's your customer. It's what's your customer doing. It's like a digital footprint of your customer.
Yeah.
In terms of who owns it within the company, I don't think that's the right way to look at it. I think, as I was saying before, like traditionally, as you were saying, CIO looks after it, it's downstream. Now it has to be operational. You have to bring it together, and you're serving both reporting, but you're serving operations as well.
Yeah, interesting. James?
Yeah, I think technology allows that these days now as well. The whole real-time connectivity between the systems, and you'll see more and more real-time integration. Even 5 years ago, it was very difficult to stand up an environment where you can service real-time stuff. But just going back to ownership, I think I agree with Stefan. But it's, again, the business is how you maximize it. So it's different teams working together to come up with the best return of investment. And that's where we are talking about how do we structure it right from the beginning. Everyone just coming together to say, it's not just let's give it to the IT guys to do something.
They need a job. Those nerds.
Kind of underground bunker somewhere. But no, it's actually working together with the whole team.
I just don't think you can say specifically it's COO or it's marketing or it's finance. They all need to be using that one kind of, we're framing it as like the operational data store, which is doing both reporting, analytics, as well as integrating with your core systems.
And Jason, how does it work in Jannah? Because you've got marketing that uses the data, you guys corral the data. Like how do the roles and responsibilities lay?
So it falls on us to bring in the data and present the data. Marketing, finance, operations, HR starting to come into it now. They tell us what they need and see. That's one of my main responsibilities. I come in, work with all these different departments, figure out what the use cases are, and then actually build it out then with our partners and present it back to them and give them, here's an example. Here's what you need. So, example, we've just rebuilt our weekly sales. We're building out, that reporting. We're building out HR now dashboards and reporting. So working with numerous partners, obviously working with Alicia and Adam within marketing to do that. So I guess inside IT owns the data, but each department owns how they want to see their data and what use cases there are for it. So we're a tool for them essentially to give them what they need to do their jobs efficiently the way we like to think about it within the business is we don't want to ever be the blocker. We want to be an enabler to the business. And but I guess, and as well, having live access to that data to be able to do things on the fly, just elaborating what you were saying, Stefan, is, I guess, key to our business and being able to not have to wait a day, a week to understand and do insights and be able to see it now. So I think we're currently doing 15-minute refreshes of the data within Salesforce, which then means, they've seen a spike. We're not seeing a spike. How can we push things going forward?
Just to add to the ownership approach, I think in terms of who owns the different information, I would say whichever system or whichever business unit looks after that function. So who looks after say Salesforce, who owns that customer information, they are then the owner of or the steward of that information. Then who owns, say, your point of sale system? they're then the owner of that information. And then they're responsible for making sure it's correct. Any uplift, you don't want to push it down to IT to figure out. You really want to make sure that the ownership is sitting with the producers of the information.
Okay, the master of the data.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So depending on whether it's financial information or customer information, just define who is the owner of, say, the customer within the organization. And it could be marketing, but it could also just be in operations, like a customer care team or something like that. Get that ownership defined, and then they're responsible for just making sure that you're feeding in, good quality information.
And there's a bit around helping IT, actually helping the owners of the data to improve the data as well. So one of the examples is that you create all these data quality reports, right? But what are the actionable items? So maybe the insurance example, you look at the CRM, they got that in front of you when you're talking to the customer, but there's missing data somewhere. And it's about helping to highlight that, saying, hey, while you're talking to them, can find out this information. If they can be interactive like that with IT helping the business to make their own the data that they enter better, it's good for everyone, right?
Yeah, to give an example of a project me and James were working on, when the customer rings up, if we can see we've got multiple records for that customer, the frontline staff can say, hey, it looks like we've got multiple profiles, confirm that, bring it together, and then, by the way, that now entitles you to a discount, right? Because now we've got a multi-product arrangement. Here's your discount. And so if you're on the phone, that's a great experience, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like that. It's like, how do we make the data in a lot better by helping the users of it? Okay, I think we're coming to the end of time. Jason, what is your advice to other organizations around data?
I think it's what I touched on before. I think each business needs to understand their data and what the business cases are for the data. In previous lives, seeing it's just put data into the warehouse for the sake of it, and what you guys were mentioning, that just a flat table, and it's too big, it's too much, it's overwhelming, and it's junk. Essentially, if you do it that way, you're not actually understanding what the business needs. You're just, oh, here's every field possible in every single platform. Let's put it in the warehouse. We might need it one day. Yes, I say yes and no. Sure, it's good to see everything holistically, but you don't always need it there in the data warehouse. That's why I guess the separate platforms are there. And that's why you would, if there's anything extra granular you need, that's not going to suit the whole business and suits one person, I don't think you always need it in a data warehouse. So I think it's more just understand what you need from your data, who needs it, how often you need it, and then make sure it's in the format you need. Don't just accept a middle class bronze, silver. So you can always go for that gold standard of what you want your data to look like.
Great. James, what's your advice?
Keep it simple. Like you said, I think a lot of the kind of customers that I work with, the things that we are fixing up is because, like you said, it got too complicated. Just overthinking. IT people tend to overthink, and it's, this is a good idea. Let's add in another technology because it's the latest, and I like to work on that and put it on my CV. That does happen a lot in the IT space, and just got to go back to the basics, like I said. And then again, what's coming next, you're way more flexible to change if you keep it simple.
Great. I love it. Stefan?
Yeah, I would say be practical. You just in time design as much as you need, but design it for reuse. You don't need to spend months and months conceptualizing and coming up with the perfect architecture or design. You need a blueprint to work off, but then you just need to start delivering results, but delivering them in a way where you understand how you can build out to that target state.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you guys very much for your time and sharing your thoughts with the audience. It's been a really insightful conversation. I've learned all about grains and what is it? Third normal form. Yeah. All sorts of weird things that I won't think about ever again, hopefully. And I think just to reiterate, like Jannah's story here is it's something that I see a lot of organizations needing to do, because so many organizations are going, oh, we need data. Let's do a enterprise data warehouse RFP and choose the biggest, most complex solution for this. 3 years later, they end up with a data swamp because they've just put everything into it.
Yeah, look, I would say whether you're picking, say, Google BigQuery, you're picking Azure Data Lake, or even keeping it simple and just having a SQL Server if that's all you need, or AWS, but forget about the technology. The technology is all kind of converging. Just focus on being practical, and you can deliver this in any of these technology stacks.
That's great. And just don't design it for reuse. I
Design
think
it for
that's the key.
reuse, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you guys. Really appreciate your time. And on to the next data warehouse project.
Thanks,
Thanks for having us.
Right. Yeah, thanks. Awesome.